legislation about the inclusion of disabled people, but we face a big gap between what the law says and what happens in the reality. So it is an occasion for us to know what happens in the other European countries.
Aspetta.
I piedi sono?
No, era stuccio nella...
niente è successo.
Grazie, no.
The Italian Republic guarantees the inviolable rights of disabled persons. Our constitution, that was wrote in 1945, already stated that it was a duty of the Republic to remove any obstacle that constrain freedom and equality of citizens in order to ensure the full development of the human person. And the Article 34 of our Constitution states that the school is open to all. So this is the main frame. The most important law in our legislation about social inclusion is the Law 104, and it was approved in 1992. It guarantees people with disability and their families the ownership of specific rights and provides assistance, states the full integration and the adoption of prevention measures and functional recovery. It ensures social, economic and legal protection, creating the premises and conditions for full affirmation of civil rights and the participation in social life. And as social life, we mean family, school, work, leisure time. It states also the principle of inclusion in any public service and in any funding as a right of people with disabilities. This law also explains what means in our country to be a person with disabilities. It is anyone who presents a physical, psychological, sensory impairment, permanent or progressive, that causes a learning, social, working difficulty, and that causes a situation of disadvantage or social marginalization. About the law, it contains dispositions about the intervention for prevention and early diagnosis, and at this regard, a great importance is given to information to the parents about the risk or the features of the disability of their child and how to deal with it. And also care and rehabilitation, services for social integration, labor inclusion, personal support provided by the local authorities, daily centers and rehabilitation centers, adapting public and private buildings and equipment enabling the removal of any barriers, both architectural and sensorial. About transport, the local authorities are required to provide free transport for people with disability. In particular, the local boards have the right to provide the daily transport to people with disability to go to school and to follow education, to go to the health centers, and also for sport and leisure time centers. But it depends on their budget, so in most of the cases they have only free transport to go to school until they are 18 years old. Another important aspect is the permission for assistance. So mothers and fathers of children with disabilities have the right to have 3 years as an optional period of work leave or 2 hours a day of special permission until the child is 3 years old. And after, the parents have the right to have 3 days off a month for assistance. They also have the right to choose a place work closer to home, and they cannot be transferred to another location without their consent. About education and school life, Pupils and students with disabilities or special educational needs have the right to full integration into a regular class with an appropriate number of hours of educational support. They have the right to participate fully in school life by taking advantage of the school meals service, summer camps, study visits accompanied by special staff or even by an adult volunteer. Furthermore, during school activities, children with disabilities can ask for the assignment of assistant staff and at the expense of local authorities. Pupils and students have the right to an individual education plan, to a social project that is made by the municipality and the local health board, and a rehabilitation program tailored to individual needs. We will go in deep about the education of people with special needs later. About some important reforms in the Italian inclusion system, it is very important, something like a cultural revolution that we have had in the 60s and 70s, where a lot of medicians and also teachers started to ask to the parents of people with disability to put them off the special schools or also the psychiatric hospitals and try to enroll them into the normal schools. And so from this movement we have the law 180 that was made in 1978, and it was the reform of the psychiatric system that contained the directives for the closing down of all psychiatric hospitals and led to the gradual replacement with a broad range of community-based services. But even if this process started in the 70s, the last psychiatric hospital closed in 2000. So it's a very slow happening. And then in 2000 we had another important law that is 328, and it aims to refine integrated system of intervention and social services. It is a welfare reform to develop local welfare and an integrated system of social services, introducing the use of local social plans based on the principle of subsidiarity, cooperation and services integration, and the individual project of life that families can request and agree with the municipalities in order to realize a full integration within the family and the social life. This afternoon we will meet the social worker at our town council, and she will explain us how this law works. Finiamo, le altre facciamo dopo, perché in the afternoon we will explain you about the educational system in Italy and also the work inclusion. Now